Wagwan, everyone! Welcome to Film Shrapnel, your one-stop spot for everything movies. My name's Tobias, and today I am joined by my co-anchor, Craig Britton. Hello, Craig.
How's it going?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, man. How are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Today, we're doing our monthly round hump, what we love, what we hate, and what we want to see more of. Craig, I have an interesting assortment of things. I've got two brand new things and one thing that's actually quite old, comparatively speaking. Not too old.
Oh, I always forget. What do we start with? Do we start
We're
with
gonna start.
love,
We'll
hate, or
start with
what?
love. We're gonna do like a nice like a sandwich. So the bread is gonna be like nice things to say, but the meat of the sandwich is like all the annoying shit that we don't want. We're just fuck. Although to be fair, I don't really hate what I hate this month. In all fairness, I just hate one thing about it.
I'll also be honest as well. The thing I hate this month, I don't hate massively, but it is worth hating. And the
Yeah.
thing I want more of is something that's returning that I've discussed before.
Are you gonna continue being the timekeeper, Craig?
As always, yeah.
As always. Will let me know when to go.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so the what I loved, and I'm going to use the term love very lightly. I didn't love it, but I watched Scream 6. I'm a big fan of the franchise in general. I love Scream. I think the first one is a masterpiece, and I think that the second film is one of the best sequels to uh, a horror franchise that we've got an example of. I think Scream is a really well-rounded horror franchise. I think it's really good. I love how it's self-referential and it's able to be super meta. Um, I won't lie. I'm not a huge fan of this new version of Scream. Scream 5 has set up like new characters, and this new one, Scream 6, we're now following these other characters that were established in Scream 5. What's her name? Neve Campbell. She doesn't return. Sydney Prescott. She doesn't return. But Monica from Friends comes back. What's her name? Courtney Cox. She's back, playing Gail Weathers. It's all right. It's just not great. I don't think it's great. It's basically like this is a direct sequel to Scream 5. Like, you need to have watched Scream 5 in order to get Scream 6. I'm not a huge fan of Scream 5. I thought Scream 6 was better than Scream 5. But if I'm perfectly honest, you could have just stopped at the first one, and I think it would have been a perfect single movie franchise. I don't think you needed any of these sequels. Um, I think I'm going to put it in my love because it's such a improvement. At least as far as I'm concerned, it's a huge improvement on the previous one, Scream 5. I will say this, Craig, you'll hate this. They've introduced like a ghost now. So there's a ghost in these movies. Whereas
They've
before it was always like a serial killer. Now the ghost of Billy Loomis is haunting the girl, our lead actress, who is like the new Sydney, the replacement. But she's also fucked up in the head because her dad was a serial killer. Her dad was the serial killer from the first Scream movie, and now he's back as a ghost form, fucking with her at any chance he gets. And yeah, like obviously it's in her head, and we're sort of building to, I think, her becoming the new Ghostface. I reckon she'll become. I get this next Scream film, Scream 7. She'll become the serial killer, the main serial killer, I reckon. I think that's what they're building towards, at least. I don't love it. But it's way better than the previous one. and that's why I'm going to put it in my love. Didn't love the fifth one. Jenna Ortega's in it. She's pretty good. I like her. I think the whole world's fallen in love with her since she did Wednesday. Now everyone knows who Jenna Ortega is. She's like globally famous now, and she's pretty good in it. I'll give her that. I like Jenna Ortega in it. I like it's all right. Like I say, it's all right. It's not great, but it's all right. It's all right. It's an improvement on the last one. It's still not very good. I think that's probably my 5 minutes.
That's 4 minutes. You can say a bit more if you want. If you like, maybe mention something about the plot.
Well, I mean, I'm going to have to spoil it then, but I don't want to say exactly who, but let's just say someone who's not happy about the bad guy getting killed in the previous one is out for revenge in this one. And what better way to get revenge than to dress up as the guy from the first Scream movie? Do you know? Yeah, what the fuck? It's all right. It's just I think these Scream movies have just become um, too focused on referencing itself, where it's sort of forgotten what made it good at doing that in the original. Where the
Yeah,
original really does. I think that opening scene in the original where he's like, "What's your favorite scary movie?" and Drew Barrymore's like freaking out on the phone, like it's genuinely scary, but also huge Easter eggs in that conversation for fans of horror films. Like
like,
it's just such a perfectly written movie, the first one, and yeah, I think the sequels have forgotten how to reference itself without being too much of a
yeah.
wink to the audience.
You're almost at 6 minutes now. I'll stop you there.
Oh yeah,
I didn't want to stop you when you were going on. Uh,
yeah.
nice. I haven't seen many of them. I think I've seen like maybe the first and second Scream. I haven't
Mm-hmm.
really seen the rest. Maybe we should do we at some point we should do a horror thing. We really
I
should like
I think I
and see
think
some of these.
I think you'll really love Scream, but I think in order to love, because you're not huge on horror films in general, are you, Craig?
No, but it's not because I have a massive thing against them. It's just that I watched so many when I was a kid, like with
Mm.
my mum, because my mum just used to always put them on. She used to put on sometimes really shit films, and I couldn't understand how she could watch them, to be honest.
Mm.
And I just got so used to identifying the tropes, and like sometimes where you get to the point where you can recognize a shot. Oh, maybe something's about to happen. Something's about to jump out, and
Hmm.
you spot it just before it happens. And like when you get to that point where you've seen so many like horror films, you just lose interest in it. It doesn't work anymore. So that's been my biggest thing about horror movies is that they just don't horror
Well,
me.
this is it. I think you'll love Scream because it's commenting on exactly that. It comments on all the tropes of horror films and how you should be able, if you were a character in these films, you'd be able to see all these things coming a mile away. you know, the first thing you would do is run out the front door instead of up the stairs, which is a line in the original film where she comments on, it's always some bimbo that's always running up the stairs instead of out the front door. It's insulting. But then later in the scene, she starts getting chased. She tries to go out the front door. It's locked. So she has to run upstairs. So little things like that, I think really work in the
Yeah,
original film.
I've seen more of the scary movie
Yeah.
yeah, I've seen more of scary movie than I have a Scream.
Scary
That's
Movie
what.
is amazing, in all fairness. I love Scary Movie.
Yeah, I need to rewatch that one again.
Um, Go on then. It's your turn.
All right, so
Hit us with your love.
I'll hit you with my love stick. All right, here we go. I'm starting now. 5 minutes. All
Go.
right. So I don't know if I've mentioned this one before. I definitely think we spoke about it, but I'm not sure if we did it in this little segment thing. I really love The Mandalorian. I
Ah.
really like this show. I only found out that season 3 was on recently, and I've been binging it. I really like to binge this show. It's just really fun. Like I'm not a big fan of Star Wars. We recently watched the first 6 Star Wars movies with my daughter because she hasn't seen them, and I want to indoctrinate her into all the things that I was exposed to. And they're not really. I mean, the first original 3, yeah, okay. I mean, they're classics. they got their stuff, but they're a bit dated. And there are some funny things going on here and there, especially in the third one. Uh, Number one, I recently said I hate Phantom Menace is crap. The second one and the third one, I find Anakin so fucking annoying. He's really, really fucking annoying. And it's so obvious that he's going to kill people. And they're so surprised that he ends up being the bad guy. Like he was a red flag for 2 fucking movies and no one figured it out. Anyway, that aside, I do feel that this is a really good show. Um, it's really good escapism because much of the show really is basically this guy Din Djarin. By the way, you don't find out his name for quite a while, and he has a baby Yoda who everyone knows about, who's called Grogu. Basically, his mission originally is to he's paid to deliver it to some not Republic, Empire guys. They've been defeated, by the way. This is after the sixth film, Episode 6,
Ah.
which is interesting because actually we do have Luke come at one point. They kind of do some CGI stuff. At first, I was a bit annoyed. It confused me when I saw that. And actually, what really annoyed me about this show was that after season 2, Din Djarin and Grogu separate. Grogu goes with Luke to learn how to be a Jedi because he's a Jedi. He's from this group of people. And then in season 3, they're back together again. And what happened is you have to watch the book of Boba Fett to find out that they got back together again. And I thought that's really annoying. I'd rather just watch the whole show and not have to stop watching one show and watch another show to find out what happened in between. You know, I think that's really not a good thing to do. I guess Disney just wants to spread around all its Star Wars stuff.
Mm.
Um, but anyway, yeah, I do really like this show because it's like, as I said before, like really good escapism. It's a bit of a monster of a week kind of thing, but it still has an underlying narrative that brings it all together. And it feels like it's kind of building up this kind of like legendary messiah like thing for Din Djarin because slowly he's becoming more kind of like a legendary person, I guess, and he's building something. Grogu, I'm not sure what will happen to him yet. Yeah, I really, if you want some really good escapism that's not related to anything, for example, I really like Succession, but
Mm.
Succession is so rooted in real world people and bullshit like the Trump family and the Murdoch family, even Elon Musk a little bit. Like it's kind of a bit bleak to think that these fuckers are ruling the world. But if you want to escape from all your worries, I would recommend The Mandalorian. It's very fun. I'm actually thinking about showing it to my daughter at some point. There are some points though where it gets kind of a bit. Actually, I quite like this. Some people don't like this. For example, in the third season, there's one very long episode where most of it's about this ex-scientist who was a genetic guy who used to clone people or something, and he worked for the Empire. And then now the Empire is defeated, like he's been reintegrated into society under the Republic, and he's not allowed to do his clone work anymore. And it's quite a long episode. It's kind of like, how to be reintegrated when let's say you were on the losing side in a war, and now you have to reintegrate into the society in which defeated you. It's
Mm.
very interesting. It made you think about like kind of Nazi scientists, I guess. And he actually gets fucked over
Mm.
by someone else who's like, who used to also be in the Empire, but she fucks him over to get, I don't know, get some extra points with the Republic guys. Anyway, a lot of people didn't like that episode because they thought it was very detached and very away from the show itself, away from the Mandalorian. But I really liked it because like it's a very interesting idea because you never see this discussed in any of the Star Wars films. It can
Sure.
be sometimes very thoughtful, and it was quite interesting to see that. So yeah,
Mm.
that's almost my 5 minutes. So yeah, I really enjoyed The Mandalorian.
Cool. I mean, I've watched some of it. I liked it, but like you, I've never been a huge Star Wars fan. I like the idea of Star Wars. I love lightsabers. I love the idea of the Jedi. Chewbacca's fucking awesome. Uh, Darth Vader is like the coolest bad guy ever. I like elements of Star Wars a lot, um, but I've never really been into it. I really like Mandalorian. I thought it was really good. I haven't watched all of it. That's definitely haven't watched any of the new season. But I remember trying to watch Book of Boba Fett, and I just wasn't really that interested. And I don't really feel interested enough in The Mandalorian even to go back and carry on watching it, even though I know it's good. Everyone says it's good, and I've seen it for myself. I liked it, but like I'm still waiting for that urge to go and like power watch the whole show.
Well, I think probably if you start, you probably will end up doing it because what's another
Mm.
great thing about it is like most episodes are about 30 minutes. So
Okay.
it's quite
Right.
easy. You could do it quite quickly.
Okay.
Uh,
I might give it a shot.
but yeah, that's another thing I was going to mention as well is like the universe of Star Wars is very fruit like it's got a lot there. There's a lot of stuff you
Mm.
can play around with. It just
So
has to
much scope.
be yeah, you just have to play with it the right way. And I think they're
Mm.
doing that with the Mandalorian. There's also going to be a new show, by the way. I forgot. I think it's called Skeleton Crew. It's got Jude Law in it. It's going to come out soon as well. Also set in the Star Wars universe. So I'm curious what that'll
Oh,
be like.
I like Jude Law. All right. Shall we move on to hate?
Hate, yes.
Hate. I don't really hate this. What I'm going to talk about, I don't hate that much.
We need to watch some more stuff we hate properly.
We do. I haven't really watched anything I hate. Are you ready with the stopwatch, Craig?
Yes, I'm going to click it now. Oops,
Okay.
now.
All right. Here we go. So, what I hate this week, and I actually don't hate it. I actually really enjoyed it. Um, there's at least for my Netflix, my regional Netflix, there's a TV show called Sick Note, and it stars Rupert Grint, aka Ron Weasley. It also stars Nick Frost of Shaun of the Dead fame and Hot Fuzz fame. It's I really like it. I really like it. The general premise is you've got this guy played by Ron Weasley, and he's a bit of a lazy, bone idle, good for nothing. He's got like a decent job, but it's almost like he's trying to get sacked. He makes up that he's ill a lot of times, like he's got like a sprained wrist or whatever, and he'll just wear a brace, but then he'll go and play video games all day, like just like a bone idle, lazy, not a bad guy, just a fucking, you know, lazy prick. He reminds me a lot of me. Then basically, he goes to a doctor. The doctor, his regular doctor's ill, so Nick Frost steps in. He gets things all backwards, but he says you've got cancer. So now Rupert Grint believes that he's got cancer, and having cancer now has opened up a bunch of doors to him. And like he lost his girlfriend, but now the girlfriend wants to stay in his life. Um, his things are going better at his job. Just the fact that he thinks he's got cancer, so now everyone else thinks he's got is helping him better himself, basically. Then Nick Frost gets in touch and he's like, "Listen, I got it all wrong. That was not your, that wasn't your medical exam. You're a clean bill of health." And so they hatch this plan where he's like, "Okay, instead of the relief that he hasn't really got cancer, he's like, actually, can we hold on telling people? Can we just pretend that you uh cure me?" And he's like, "Well, why do you want to do?" He's like, "Look, don't worry about why I want to do it, but let's just say that they find out that you told me I had cancer when I don't. What happens to you?" He's like, "Okay, I might lose my medical license." Like, right, okay, so do it my way, and then we all get what we want. So he's now pretending that he's got cancer, um, and Nick Frost is basically trying to help him sell this lie. And then basically a friend of his is actually banging his girlfriend behind his back, and this friend is hiding from him. But then he talks about having like faking having cancer. He hears the window, goes to open the window. His friend's there. He's like, "You faked having cancer, bruv." And then he falls out the window and dies. So now the rest of the show is like this cause and effect thing where, okay, they've got to deal with this body. And then because that's basically the first episode that I've told you about. It's 2 seasons, and like every episode, it's almost like this cause and effect. Like everything sort of every action having an equal or larger reaction, and it's just spirals out of control. It's decent. I know it's in my hate, but it's decent. I actually recommend it. What I hate though about it, it's 2 seasons long. The end of the second season really sets something up, and it looks like that they've cancelled the show. And I've waited maybe 2-3 years for the third season, and now it's just not going to happen. So that's why I'm angry. That's why I'm hateful that Netflix aren't going to renew this really good show. I would say anyone listening to this, go and watch the show, pick up the show's numbers, like the show on Netflix. So they are like, oh, actually, people do want to see a third season, and maybe they'll commission a third one. So help me in this plight, everyone, to get a season 3 of Sick Note. I actually really like it. I think Rupert Grint's really good in it. I think Nick Frost's really good in it. There's a couple of other faces that you'll recognize. Yeah, I give it. I think it's a solid 6 or 7 out of 10. I think it's really worth watching. I think it's a travesty that they're not going to renew it
You're
for
at
a third
5.
season. Is that my 5? All right.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm hateful, because they've cancelled a good show.
I've seen it on Netflix. I haven't watched it.
I recommend it. I recommend it. Although,
All right.
if you're looking for a conclusion, you ain't going to get it.
Yeah, this is the fucking annoying thing. When they can't like there was a great show. I've probably mentioned this before. Raised by Wolves. That
Yeah,
was
you've told me that. Yeah, yeah.
like if you want something very weird and weird sci-fi shit, I super recommend that. And they fucking cancelled it, and I'm so annoyed. It was really good, really good, and you'll never get a conclusion. And this is really bugs me. I mean, I don't know. I've got more to say on this soon. I promise.
Well, I mean, I just hope that like a lot of these shows that we're working towards an ending, and people are really into it and they want to find out, like because Firefly did it, and Joss Whedon eventually made a movie. I forget the name of the movie.
Serenity.
Serenity. Thank you. So it can happen. So as long as the fan base remain vocal, as long as people keep telling them what they want to see and what they like, you will get your conclusion. You just might have to wait a bit, and you might have to shout a bit loud, but you'll get there. Look at the
Yeah,
Snyder cut. Look at what happened
true.
with the Snyder cut. If you're loud enough, they'll listen.
Yeah, but the thing is though, I think a lot of shows that got cancelled in the last, I think it was mostly this year, wasn't it? The beginning of 2023. It was mostly because of the economy, because of
Yeah.
uncertainty. So I don't know, especially with the writer's strike going on at the time we were recording this anyway.
Yes.
Um, I don't, we might have to wait a little bit for some of these shows to get conclusions. And if it gets too late, people just forget about it and it just moves on. So
This
I'm
is it.
not too
Yeah, you got to
confident.
strike while it's hot. You got,
Yeah.
while people are still interested.
All right. Should I
Yeah,
talk?
sure. Yeah,
Yeah, some hate from me. Okay, here
yeah.
we go. All right. I recently watched Trainspotting 2, and
Oh,
I didn't like it. Well, I didn't completely hate it. I mean, but it was kind of just a bit of a cash grab, really, and that kind of disappointed me. I mean, a lot of the film, it relied too much on the original film. There is so much like they cut so many little clips from the first film and just insert it into the second film. There is so much like shots referencing each other, like the famous one about when Renton is running down the street and then a car stops in and he laughs at the guy driving the car.
mm-hmm.
There little things like that repeating in the second film. Um, I I just don't think that it really needed to be made. To be honest, it just makes you want to watch the first one again, and like it
Yeah.
doesn't really build on anything. I mean, so you see the characters 20 years later. Renton comes back, the main character from the first film, played by Ewan McGregor. because his life is kind of falling apart a little bit. He moved away to Amsterdam, was moderately successful, but now he's splitting with his wife, and soon he'll be unemployed. And of course, he sees Sick Boy, who's now like blackmailing people making porn. Begbie, the crazy guy, gets out of prison. Well, breaks out of prison. And what's the other guy called? Spud. Spud is
Spud.
still a heroin addict. Yeah. And like, I don't know, like they kind of get all together, kind of to make some kind of like basically they want to make a brothel in a pub. And it's just, it doesn't really have the spark. Like the first film, it is really set on heroin, and like it's that's a very heavy topic, and it's very interesting to like watch these guys deal with addiction and all this shit, and being like in a really rough place, like in Edinburgh. Although I wouldn't say Edinburgh is as rough as Glasgow, but that's another story. And like I don't know, that was quite strong, and it was really based on Irvine Welsh's writing. And this second film, like it's 20 years later, I don't think it's based too much on his. I know they also put in a bit from another book called Porno, which I don't know much about. There are also some bits where I think they're trying to rehash some material they didn't use in the first film. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it was necessary to make it. I mean, there's not really a hard hitting story there. It's just like you never watch like a show, and then they make like a follow up show later. It's, oh, what are they doing now, kind of thing. And like that's really what it felt like to me. It wasn't very interesting. I relied too heavily on the first film. It didn't really have a point. I mean, if they were struggling with something, if they had something to work toward, well, they did have something to work towards, but it didn't really feel like something really. I don't know. There was a Bulgarian actress in it, by the way. A lot of people in Bulgaria were really happy to see her in it, and she does actually speak
Yeah.
Bulgarian in it, which was quite nice. Um, but yeah, I mean, just too heavy on the past, too heavy on what happened 20 years ago, or more than 20 years ago now, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. For me,
Because
that's
Danny
not
Boyle
enough.
does this one as well, right?
I'm actually not sure. Maybe it was him. Yeah. There was also some bits they tried to squeeze in from other bits of Irvine Welsh's writing that they didn't fit in the first film. Like, for example, so Spud starts writing lots of stories based on their adventures from when they were younger, which maybe was a bit nice, actually. I did like that. And they did tell a story about Begbie, where they were, when they were all going out drinking, and they found an abandoned warehouse or something, or a train station, and some old alcoholic guy starts makes a comment on them. What are they doing here? Train spotting or something. And Begbie was really quiet, and it was kind of odd that he'd be so quiet because he's usually not like that. And then they
Mm.
realized, that was his dad, just some homeless guy on the street. Uh, but yeah, that although it was interesting to put in for the character, it felt like they were just grasping at straws. Oh, what other material can we take from Irvine Welsh's like back catalogue and just stick it in the film for the sake of it, you know? So yeah, not too impressed with Trainspotting 2. So that's my almost my 5 minutes. I had like 10 seconds to spare. There you go.
I mean, because I'm a huge fan of the original film, and I'm sure you are as well, because it's
Hmm.
a brilliant film. Uh, and there is a sequel uh, in literary form. We did the sequel's called Porno, right? The book.
Is that actually is that definitely a sequel with the same characters?
Yeah.
Okay, because they did use some of the material. I did notice on Wikipedia they used material from the original Train Spotting and this one as well from Porno.
Yeah, well, Porno's the original sequel, but I heard that this wasn't a direct translation of the book. It was its own thing, more of a sequel to the movie than the source material.
Hmm.
I remember watching Train Spotting too. I don't remember. I'm sure I remember even enjoying it. I think I was with someone at the time who was really into Train Spotting, and rightly so, because it's a brilliant film. We watched it together, the second one. I'm pretty sure we liked it, but we just obviously it wasn't a patch on the original. But looking back, I don't find it. all that memorable. I couldn't tell you anything about the sequel. Whereas the first one, in my head, it's so iconic. I'll never forget all these key moments in the original. I have absolutely no memory of anything that happens in the sequel.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really. It's not really a memorable film.
Mm,
I don't know. I was a bit like if it built something for itself, it's okay to use the same characters, of course. I mean, it's a sequel, but like, just was just too heavy relying on the previous film that I felt
mm,
like
yeah,
I'd rather just watch the first one again.
fair. The first one is a masterpiece. It's a work of art.
True, true. So yeah, my hate wasn't too hate filled this time. I think I've
Yeah,
been
not
more angry in previous ones, but
not that
yeah,
hateful. It was nice. We usually go pretty hard on the hate, so yeah, it's nice to have some soft hate today.
soft hate.
Hmm. All right, are we ready for what we want to see more of?
Yeah, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let me know when you've clicked the button.
All right, here we go. Three, two, one, and click.
Okay, so I recently watched Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3. James Gunn back at Marvel after what? It's been like 6 or something years since Guardians 2, and James Gunn was fired, hired by Warner Brothers, then rehired by Disney, but then poached by Warner Brothers. So much has happened, and now Gunn is back with his third Guardians movie. um, Look, I'll be honest. I don't love these Guardians of the Galaxy movies. I know people really love them, but in the same vein as Star Wars, I just see them as like Star remakes of Star Wars, but with jokes, and that's really how I see Guardians of the Galaxy. And this new one, I feel there's no real there's no real character arc. The one character that goes through the most arc throughout the movie is mostly unconscious throughout the movie, uh, which is annoying. So the film opens. I really like the opening, and I actually love the soundtrack. I can't fault the soundtrack of this new film. But we get introduced to Adam Warlock, who, if you're a fan of the comics, you'll know this is like one of the most powerful characters to have ever existed within the comic books, one of the most integral characters in a lot of stories. And he's been introduced, he's been played by Will Poulter, who is a good little actor, but they've turned him into like um I don't know if you saw the all-female Ghostbusters film, but the Chris Hemsworth character in that, like the male bimbo, um that's what they've done with Adam Warlock here. And as much as I love the character, I actually think he does a good job as well. It's just that's not what Adam Warlock is in the comics for me, at least. So James Gunn, has made him funnier than he should be, as far as I'm concerned. Um, a lot of the movie is just excuses to get from set piece to set piece. um, there's not much of a plot. Most of the thing that drives the plot forward is Rocket is dying, the raccoon is dying. Spoilers, by the way, guys. The raccoon is dying, and they can't actually help him because of all of his robot shit inside him. There's like a fail safe or some bollocks, but you need a password to like save his life. So they've now got to go to the guy who created Rocket. And I will say this, the new villain, love this guy, way better than Kang from Ant-Man 3. I love this guy. We've got the High Evolutionary, who I actually thought they were going to reveal as a Kang variant to set up more Kangs for the future. They didn't do that. He is his own character, and he's actually really good. He's just obsessed with evolving humanity, and it's just nice to have a bad guy that doesn't isn't super complicated. Since Thanos and all that, they keep pushing these bad guys that are meant to be layered. Loki as well. Every bad guy needs to have a noble reason to be a bad guy. And like Guardians of the Galaxy 3, we go back to No, this is just a guy who's bad, and you get to have fun watching him be bad. You know, a classic villain for a movie. I really like this high evolutionary character, and he's ruthless, really ruthless. There's a couple of moments that I think are rushed. I think overall the movie feels rushed. I feel like they're trying to cram an awful lot into it. There's a lot. I felt that there's a lot of Thor: Love and Thunder vibes. Thor: Love and Thunder being a really bad film. This wasn't a really bad film. James Gunn's writing manages to balance everything. So even the problems I have with the film, I can forgive the film for, because the tone is just perfect for what it needs to be. The characters are fun. No one really goes through much changes, but then everyone, by the end of the film, they're like, I'm going to go do this and I'm going to go do this. And it's like, right, I didn't really see much of your journey throughout the film to lead you to this choice, but okay, fine. Like I thought it was a fun film. It was fun. Wasn't good, but it was loads of fun. And I think this can be something to get people
Yeah,
excited.
5.
All right, but yeah, people can get excited for Marvel again, I think. Although I know I'm past my 5 minutes, but I will just add an extra point in. I saw recently on the internet that the third Guardians film is not made. It has not made the money that Guardians 2 made. So they're actually looking at this financially. It looks like this has been a bit of a failure.
That's sad. But I think
Mm.
that usually happens with sequels, don't they? Uh,
Well, not with these Marvel ones though. Usually with these Marvel ones, you're building up to the event film. You know, when you look at the Avengers movies, the third and fourth Avengers films made way more money than Avengers 1 and 2. Way more money.
Fair play. Is
And I think pretty sure Iron Man 3 made way more money than Iron Man 1 and 2.
Okay. It's not always it's not a guaranteed rule.
No,
Uh,
it's not. But like with these Marvel films, you know, they've always gone against that rule until recently. Since that big giant Avengers movie, everyone's sort of calmed down a little bit. I think, except Spider-Man. Spider-Man always manages to top the previous film. Spider-Man usually does well.
you can't beat Spider-Man.
Ah, I love Spider-Man. You know, he's my favorite.
I
But I
think
don't love Tom Holland,
hmm,
unfortunately.
but I think most people, like, even if they don't watch any Marvel, they respect Spider-Man. Spider-Man is always like the top Marvel
Yeah,
guy.
man. He's a G. He's a G. He's the king of Marvel. He's a G. Stan Lee made him. You know, he stood the test of time. He's a G.
Yeah,
All right, well that's me done. That's all my movies. You've got one more thing to talk about, Craig.
I do. Should I start?
I Yeah, I'm ready when you are.
All right.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right, here's the thing I want more of. And I just press start. So I want more of Doom Patrol. I mean, I've mentioned Doom Patrol recently. I
Yeah,
recently
you did.
finished the fourth and final season. As I said earlier, I was going to say something that was, they finished in a shitty way. Yeah, they cut it at like 4 episodes in, and it's kind of a really shitty ending, to be honest. A lot of people were saying, yeah, they kind of ended it okay. Like the fourth episode makes sense as an ending, and I strongly disagree with that. Like massively. Like if you were half watching it with your phone in your hand, maybe you might think, okay, that's an alright ending. Um, but no, it wasn't. It really wasn't, because there were so many things that they left unresolved. Mind you, there was a lot of stuff that they kept trying to rehash, like the issues that the characters had. But that's another story. But anyway,
Mm.
so in the fourth season there's going to be like a zombie butt apocalypse. There's these little butt monsters that are zombies,
Hmm.
and they're going to like destroy the world. And they saw the future, how it happens, and they're trying to stop it. And they think they stopped it, but then they kind of like someone's trying to steal their immortality, because they had their immortality from Timothy Dalton's character, the chief, that gave it to them, because they're all technically experiments to live forever, basically. And so you kind of see them get their immortality stolen, and then that's the end of it. And because when Cliff is the big robot man who's voiced by what's his name, Brendan Fraser.
Mm.
He accidentally left the fridge open, and in the fridge there was a zombie Bart that was frozen, so it becomes reanimated, and that's the end of the world. So that's like, and for me, that's just not an okay ending, because like if you look at it from the characters, it's really quite shit, because at this point, we had Cyborg had become completely normal. He got rid of all his tech because he wanted to be normal. So he became just a normal guy. He took everything off. He had special surgery that he found that could remove everything, all the weapons and everything. So he's just a normal guy. And then also Crazy Jane, I forgot her name, the actress. I quite like her. She's kind of normal now. She doesn't really have. She has more control over herself and doesn't like her other personalities, because she has like 60 of them. Don't really take control. So she's kind of normal. And yeah, they don't ever get to resolve their problems, and or even get their powers back, or even become heroes, which is the main thing that I think a lot of people expected. The idea, I think, was that they could never be heroes unless they solve their psychological issues, and then never will. And yeah, I was quite annoyed that they didn't end it properly. Some people were saying it's proper ending. I really disagree. So I don't know. I'm quite annoyed that they didn't pick it up again. This was almost in my hate, by the way. I was I was super close to putting Doom Patrol in my hate, but they didn't. But I didn't. I will also mention, by the way, there was a couple of things that the show really lacked after the first season. So the first season was 15 episodes. Then the other two and three were like, I don't know, 8 or 10 or something. Alan Tydak, how you pronounce his name, left a massive hole after he left the first season. So he's the main bad guy. He's a fantastic villain. He's like, he lives in the white space in the comic books, like he basically
Ooh.
controls everything, and he narrates everything all the time. So, and he was such a great bad guy. And also Timothy Dalton, he was never like a proper serious cast member. He was always like a guest cast member, and he never had too much of a role. He did have one episode that was almost completely about him,
I
but
love him.
I, yeah, and then he eventually kind of dies off in a kind of stupid way. I don't know if maybe he wasn't very interested in the show. Maybe he had other stuff going on. Maybe it was hard to negotiate to get him to stay on the show or something. I don't know. But yeah, also when he left, it left a big hole. And some of the characters' issues that kept coming back up were kind of a bit stupid. Like, for example, Crazy Jane she's always having a problem with her inner personalities. Cliff was always just an idiot. And what was the other guy? The guy who had the spirit in him, he never felt loved or something. But it was always repeating. But yeah, they should have ended it properly. I don't know.
Mm.
That's what I want more of. At least one more episode or something. And that's my 5.
Well, I'll have to get round to watching it, but you never know. Maybe James Gunn will address it. Maybe James Gunn will go, you know what, guys, season 5 Doom Patrol.
I don't know. I don't think they will, to be honest, because some people are arguing that it was okay. It
Hmm.
served as an ending, because there was an apocalypse after when they couldn't stop it, and so the end of the world was the world ended. Jesus Christ, I can't talk. Yeah, sad.
Sorry, mate.
Canceling shit.
I'm sorry that your shows got cancelled, but my show got cancelled as well. We're both in the same boat. So you know what? Let's use this episode as a plea to the listeners out there. Go watch Sick Note, go watch Doom Patrol, and like them on Netflix. Give them some traffic, and then maybe we will get a conclusion to both of these shows. It would be nice because they both deserve it.
It feels kind of sad, this episode, doesn't it? I feel
Yeah, it's a
sad.
sad one. Yeah, yeah. I'm depressed now.
I'm very depressed.
Hollywood never finishing what they set out to do. I reckon that'll happen with the Marvel movies. I reckon one day they're just going to stop. I reckon there won't be a conclusion. I reckon that it'll just get to a point where they're like, this isn't profitable anymore, and they'll just stop making them.
I agree with that. I think that's probably going to happen.
Yeah, because at the moment they start to show like that they're not going to be profitable, they're not even going to bother working towards a conclusion to the story. They're just going to drop it like it was yesterday's.
Yeah, you have to look at it from a very capitalist perspective when you look at
Mm.
these kind of films.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you for listening to Film Shrapnel. This has been this month's monthly round hump. And thank you all for coming out to listen to us. Craig, do you want to say anything to the lovely listeners out there?
You always ask me, and I've got nothing to say to them.
I know. I'm hoping one day you'll have something.
Just thanks for listening, guys. It's always been a pleasure.
Oh, that's nice. Go follow us on Twitter, everyone, at Film Shrapnel, capital F, capital S. We're also on TikTok. Go check us out on TikTok at Film Shrapnel, all lowercase. If Spotify isn't your cup of tea, you can find us on all platforms now. We're on Amazon, we're on Apple, a plethora of other platforms. You can find us almost anywhere now. So do give us a listen. And thank you, everyone. And we'll see you in the next episode. And Craig, I love you, baby. Love
I
you
love you too,
3000.
man.
Bye.
Bye.
Shrapnel.